All right, good evening, everyone. We're excited to be back for an academic workshop featuring 612. We have framed these as a review of BOY data and how that's informed our action planning steps. Because the 612 is coming to us in November, we'll really be looking at action steps that have already been initiated and that are in progress and how they're continuing to evaluate and layer on. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Assistant Superintendent Lisa Beas.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So tonight we're going to, again, revisit some of the data we looked at a few weeks ago in the K-5 presentation and illustrate some of the shared priorities that you'll see across that work and into the upper grades. So when we met last time, we talked about projected proficiency in reading and math. We're going to revisit that data. Talk a little bit more about intervention planning and some of the data highlights there, and look at dual credit course enrollments for the beginning of the 25-26 school year. So you'll probably remember this slide from the K-5 presentation where we were looking at iReady performance and students' performance if they didn't meet their stretch growth in any year. Versus students who met their stretch growth in 1 year or students that met their stretch growth 2 years in a row. And we looked at the percentage of kids that actually ended up mid or above grade level by the end of that second year if they had made stretch growth years. And we can see the percentage is significantly higher. And then we looked at those proficiency projections in math. We focused mostly at K-5, so the grades in blue are who we're talking about tonight. But you can see our current 6th through 8th graders, if they made no further growth in iReady over the course of this year, 12% would be proficient on Smarter Balance. That's the prediction. 18% of 7th graders and 15% of 8th graders. That number increases if they meet their typical growth marker, which is expected. That's 1 year's worth of growth. But to really close gaps and improve performance, we really need to be looking at students meeting their stretch growth. And so when students do meet those projected stretch growth marks for 2 years in a row, we can see that those numbers are exponentially higher. It's a difficult task. It's not hard for students to achieve each year, but that's really the only way that we're going to close gaps that students are building over time. Similarly, in reading, you can see what happens to mid or above grade level performance if they meet stretch growth for 2 years in a row. In 25-26 projections, and the reading is really a remarkable data point, but 18% in 6th grade, 36% in 7th, 40% in 8th. This would be their projected proficiency with typical growth. And with stretch growth 2 years in a row, we have 2 grade levels that could be performing in the 70s in terms of proficiency on Smarter Balance. So there's great opportunity here to keep moving our students forward and there we go. We have a little cord difficulty tonight. But we do see some significant opportunities here, and we've been really working with teachers to focus on stretch growth and those kids that are kind of in those yellow bands when we get their growth reports and how we can be moving them in this area. So similarly, we look at that durable learning and how we're helping kids to make sure that they're keeping the gains that they make across the years. And this is just a snapshot of where our students ended in 8th grade versus how they performed on PSAT 9, which those scores just came back. And you can see in reading, we had 42%, almost 43% of our students that were proficient or above in in 8th grade across the district on Smarter Balanced. On PSAT, 39% met the benchmark. So not a significant difference at proficiency. Similar in math, 22% of 8th graders were at proficient or above on Smarter Balanced, 18% in the benchmark range for PSAT 9. But where we see the big differences is in those approaching and not yet approaching categories. So over the course of their middle grades years, and actually from third grade up, we see that a lot of students move into that approaching category. We had almost 25% in reading, 27% in that approaching category in math. And those dropped to 8% and 9% respectively on PSAT. So the challenge of the new test, the changing demands of the new test definitely presented a new level of challenge, and we don't have as much time then to make that growth back. So it's really important for us to be thinking about what this looks like from 8th grade into 9th grade and how we can help those students to retain that learning into 9th grade. So some targeted areas of opportunity that you're going to hear about tonight are monitoring interventions and assessing impact, connecting student choices to career and future planning, and increasing access to rigorous content and standards-based instruction. And you're going to see those through lines in both the middle grades presentation and the high school presentation. When we looked at Panorama student success, when we talked about K-5, and thinking about what information is available to us about students when we're designing interventions. And this is a screenshot of the East Haven High School at the end of Q1. So we can look at students' academic performance, attendance, behavior, and their self-reported social emotional learning and Vision of the Graduate survey results. So we can see these data points together, filtering them by any number of combinations to really make sure that we're choosing the best fit interventions for students. We have many students that are in need, and we have very little time. So maximizing the time and resources that we have is critically important. And you can see at JMMS and EHA, we have this snapshot data for every school all the time, updated on the daily. And so this is really giving people far more real-time results and information to action plan with. This is another snapshot of a dashboard that's available in Panorama that we haven't featured before. And one of the benefits of the intervention path dashboard, when you work in intervention teams, oftentimes it's in spreadsheets and folders and Google Drive, and you're trying to manage whose plan needed to be updated, who do we need to talk about next, how is that student really doing? And the intervention dashboard in Panorama lets us see if we had 5 students that we were using the same strategy, how many of them had that goal met? So we can see the effectiveness of particular strategies. We can see which plans need to be updated and which plans are on track. So again, just press of a button, it gives administrators and intervention coordinators far more data to work with far more quickly so that they're spending their time where it really matters, which is in designing those interventions for work with kids. And this is another snapshot of a platform that we're really working to leverage more fully this year. So we've had access to Naviance at the middle school and high school for a number of years. It's been used intermittently in grade levels for some career exploration previously, but the primary use has been for students when they're applying to college, for teachers to upload letters of recommendation. It's really been used in the college planning process, but it has far more capacity than that. And this year we're really leveraging Naviance for students to start to build a portfolio where they are managing their school experience and documenting their achievement of the attributes of the Vision of the Graduate. So students are able to upload academic artifacts, document their community service, document awards, recognitions that they receive, and their academic achievements. There's any number of things that they can capture there. And all of those entries begin to populate a portfolio for them and a resume. All of those entries in that portfolio can be used on a resume that is really guided for them in the platform. It's also synced to a very comprehensive career planning aspect of the platform. And so we're working with the guidance team and some of our support staff to really be integrating more of that career exploration starting in 6th grade and moving up through every grade level, so that students are thinking about what their interests are before they're choosing their courses, before they're picking their electives, so that they can be more strategic and see, if you really want to be an accountant, you need a 4-year degree. But if you want to be, working with a bookkeeping certificate, maybe you don't. And they can tease out what those different job opportunities are, what level of education they need, how much money those jobs make, and it gives them a lot of information that can help them in planning from that point. So our goals for this year are to upload our program of studies into the Naviance platform so that we can start creating course plans in Naviance and allowing students to think about the career pathways and the CTE pathways through the lens of their career interests that they identify in Naviance. When they upload things like those artifacts on the Vision of the Graduate, they can tag different capabilities or traits that are associated with those things. And then it starts to populate matches of different careers that match the things that they have added to their portfolio. And there is a parent component, a family component to Naviance Student that we're hoping to have open by the holiday break, so that families can access their child's Naviance account and see what are they indicating as career interests, what kinds of jobs are they saying they're interested in, what colleges have they favorited as colleges that they want to explore more. And so there's information about financial aid and the college search, and we're hoping that this is really going to help with some of their planning. Last year we were featured our AP and dual credit enrollments and the success that our students had. And as we've talked about strategic planning this year, one of the things we want to make sure we're doing is adding courses in places that make sense for kids based on those pathways. What are dual credit courses that we can add that are in service of the careers that kids are saying they want to explore or participate in, or the college majors that they want to pursue? And so, as you can see, our number of course enrollments right now, we have 368 AP and dual course enrollments. We do think there are some additional ones for semester 2 that are not registered yet. And last year we were at 380, so we are right on par to keep that number that we were so pleased with last year. And as we move into the school presentations, you're really going to see this through line of increasing rigor and access, making sure that kids have access to tools that will help them plan better for their four-year journey here, but through their entire school career. That we are providing curricular and instructional experiences that are engaging kids, but also really preparing them for what's to come. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Darcy Doyon, our principal from JMMS. Yeah, you can stay.
Good evening. So first and foremost, thank you so much for having us here tonight. It's always a pleasure to be able to share with you what's happening at JMS. So as we begin this evening, all right. So yes, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. All right. So at the end of each school year, we take a look at where we are, what we've done, and start to set our goals for the following year. And when I looked at our growth from last year, when we're looking at our beginning of the year iReady and our end of the year iReady, we had some significant growth. And one of the great pieces about iReady is that, thanks, that it aligns very nicely with SBAC scores. So you can see that we started the year, our last year, sixth graders at 27% proficiency. They grew to 37%. Our SBAC scores came in at 37% proficiency. Same thing in seventh grade, started at 30%, grew to 38%. SBAC scores came in at 40% proficiency. So there's great alignment there. And we see some great growth. So we're looking last year at between 8 and 15% increase in proficiency across the 3 grade levels. And if we could maintain that, we would be a blue ribbon school within a couple of years. And this is the growth that we tend to see every year, which then begged for me the question, why? Why are we not seeing this trend of upward growth every year? And so at the start of this year, I then dove into this year's iReady scores. And if we look at the same groups as a cohort, our last year's sixth graders who ended at 37% proficiency started this year at 31% proficiency. Our current eighth graders who were seventh graders last year who had made that great growth and ended last year at 38% proficiency started this year at 28% proficiency. So it's as though every year we spend all year making this growth, and then over the summer we lose that and we're starting back at square one. And so they make this growth, but we're not seeing the overall growth from year to year on those SBAC scores and the proficiency level in SBAC, or I'm sorry, in iReady, as kids continue to move forward. So what this shows us is that when we're looking at the growth of students from beginning to end of year, our instruction is working. Something that we're doing is working. But the fact that they're coming back to us in September and they're not bringing back with them what they left with is telling us that retention is not working. They're not retaining what it is that we are working so hard to teach them during the school year, which means that we need to start to make a shift in what it is we're doing in our instructional practices. So essentially, I can't really see over there, so I'm going to put my own here. So essentially, our theory of action this year is that if we really implement a cohesive strategy that drives deep, encoding, so that kids remember what it is that they're learning throughout the summer and come back at least close to where it is when they left, then they'll shift from surface level memorization to durable knowledge, which will withstand the summer break and lead to a measurable upward trend in overall proficiency rates year after year. So the question becomes, how do we do this? And so this year, our focus is extremely embedded in research. We are looking to consistently embed the 8 mathematical teaching practices to ensure more rigorous and concept-oriented learning in math, and to improve our cross-curricular literacy through the adaptation of high-leverage strategies, such as reciprocal teaching and partner reading across all subject areas. And this ties in directly to what our strategic goals are. We want to deepen our cross-curricular literacy. We want to see this happening in every classroom, our math classrooms, our unified arts classrooms, social studies, ELA. We want to embed high-leverage math practices. We want to ensure timely intervention and adjustment and strengthen our equitable support. So our instructional focus this year is to deepen our Tier 1 instruction and refine our targeted interventions to ensure that every student succeeds. When we started PD at the beginning of this school year, the rollout to staff was essentially, you've been doing a lot of work over the last few years. There's been a lot of new initiatives. This year is about going deeper, not wider, taking everything that we've already been putting into place and getting better at it, essentially. I want to kind of jump in before we go to this reading slide. I don't know if anybody's familiar with John Hattie. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge Hattie fan, and he's a significant educational researcher. And so everything that we're doing this year is really, it stems from research. We're not just randomly plucking different things that we want to do in the school in the hopes that it's going to make kids learn better. Hattie has done many meta-analyses on thousands of studies on education and determine which ones have the greatest effect size. And what Hattie has found is that through his measurements, an effect size of 0.4 is essentially 1 year's growth. Any strategies that you implement in a classroom that have more or greater than a 0.4 effect size will close the gap more than 1 year. So teachers work hard every single solitary day. And so if we can ensure that they have the tools to work hard using what it is that works best in classrooms, then we can start to see the student growth that we're looking for. They get the same amount of time every day, no matter what it is they're doing. So we need to make sure that what we're doing is what's going to have the greatest impact. So with that being said, we have been focusing in reading this year on creating active and engaged readers. So we created a 3-step professional development for teachers that we implemented in August, September, and October during our building days that have strictly focused on strategies that help students become active and engaged readers. So that when we walk into a classroom, there's not one student reading and 20 students listening. It's every student engaged with the text and working with teachers to implement the strategies to ensure that this is happening not only in language arts classes, reading classes, but in writing classes and in social studies classrooms. And we've seen some great success with this so far. The engagement that we're seeing in classrooms is phenomenal right now. And it's really exciting to walk into those classrooms and see students who you wouldn't typically see reading engaged in the text and engaged in the learning. So our second piece is, or I'm sorry, our third piece really, because our second is implementing the strategies, is that administrators are doing walkthroughs to give feedback to staff members. Go in, take a look, what's happening, how can they improve their practice, what are they doing really well, and then what can they share with others. We'll be doing collegial visits where staff members can reach out to get feedback from other staff members on areas that they want to show improvement, as well as reaching out and saying, this is something I think I'm really good at if anybody wants to come in and see me implement this practice that we've been doing as well. So the two major strategies that we're focusing on right now are reciprocal teaching, which in summary is kids teaching kids. So we know that when you can teach something, it means that you're really learning it and it's not just surface learning. So reciprocal teaching is an actual structure that's made up of 4 parts. It's a collaborative strategy where students in the group each have a different role that they need to take on. So if you're going to be the summarizer, you need to really know how to summarize, and your peers are there to help you and give you feedback. The questioner, we teach kids how to question so that as they're reading, it's embedded in them, whether they're reading silently or orally, that they are questioning as they're reading. I know personally, I can read through an entire article and not be able to tell you one thing that it's about when I'm finished with it if I wasn't truly engaged in that reading. And I think that's true of all of us. And so we have students who sit in the classroom and you have to read chapter 1. So they read chapter 1, and at the end of the chapter 1, they can't tell you anything about it. And that's typical of adults and students who aren't truly engaged in what it is they're doing. So these strategies that we are implementing in classrooms ensure that students are engaged in the reading. The second one is paired reading. And paired reading as well is both of these actually, Hattie says, have the greatest effect sizes. Reciprocal teaching has about a 0.74 effect size. So if you figure 0.8 is 2 years growth, then we're getting pretty darn close to 2 years growth if we are consistently implementing reciprocal teaching in the classroom. Paired reading has about a 0.72 to 0.73, depending on how you're looking at it, effect size. So again, it has a significant impact on student learning. In paired reading, there's a lot of different things that students are doing during this time. They are partnered, and they're partnered strategically. It's not just find a friend. They're partnered with somebody who has a similar need as they do or similar reading level, and they are also partnered they're partnered with somebody who is not too much higher than they are in reading, so the other person's doing all the work, or too much lower. And as they're partnered, they work together. They can be working on fluency, they can be working on comprehension. Just hearing the partner read, we know helps. This is a significant or has a significant impact on our ELL students. So students who sit in a classroom who struggle with understanding when somebody else is reading, during partner reading, the research shows that this is one of the strategies that truly supports our ML students.
Good evening. I'll be giving some curriculum updates for social studies and how they relate to some of the work that we're doing at the middle school level. So we've been engaged in a lot of curriculum redevelopment this year in the grades 6 through 8 level at the middle school and the academy, particularly since the state released new social studies standards in the past year that have given us a lot better guidance in terms of the content and the skills that the students should be able to master at each grade level. So throughout this school year so far, we've really taken a priority at the middle grade levels to take a look at first the scope and sequence content-wise of what students are learning, and then how to incorporate some of those reading and writing skills that are building priorities into the curriculum in service of the different standards that we're addressing at the same time. At the middle school, one of our most significant shifts has been in grade 6. Previously, we had more of a historical focus in that grade level, and we're moving that to be more of a geographical focus. So our units are becoming more focused on issues happening around the world and a better understanding of geographical literacy. And with that, it's been really exciting to see how teachers are able to bring in current events types of lessons and reading and writing activities that get students to explore more authentic types of issues that might be relevant to their own lives right now too. We're looking a lot at the inquiry process as we have for several years, but with our new standards, we have a lot better guidance in each grade level as to what the specific skills students should be demonstrating would be, and we're able to scaffold those in each grade level for students to have tasks that build over time throughout each year, which has been really nice. Our sixth grade teachers also this year have had professional learning experiences with our elementary teachers who are rolling out a new curriculum program, and it's been nice for the two of them to, or the three of them to be able to have that collaboration with people in other grade levels to see how those skills can develop throughout all of the curriculum throughout the years. So this is just an example of something that we've been doing in social studies that relates to some of what Darcy discussed with the paired reading. That works really well with a lot of the curriculum updates we've been making, because with paired reading, students are looking at a text, sometimes through multiple reads, and trying to understand at a close level the nuances of the text that will help them to really get a better conceptual understanding of what they've studied. This is just an example of an 8th grade one that we did, so you can see what its typical task might be that students are doing each day in class. Each lesson is framed around some sort of question that students are exploring. So in this case, it was how did different groups resist or justify British authority? That question ties into a bigger Unit 1 question that students were exploring. So by answering that one question, they're able to get a better understanding of the unit question. And through the lesson, students are looking at different sources, all of which in this case were primary sources that are from the colonial period in U.S. history, where first they read through them with their partner to get a sense of what the perspective was of the author of the document, and then a second time to get an idea of what the actual ideas were that they were expressing in terms of either supporting or resisting British authority. And then ultimately, at the end of it, individually, students did what's on the right there, which was create a written response that had to incorporate textual evidence from the different readings. So it's been a nice change for the teachers using this approach, because, as Darcy mentioned, it gets every single student engaged in the class. We actually happened to be in the 8th grade classes that day when they were doing that lesson, and every single student was engaged with the text, talking about these ideas with one another, and were really well poised after the lesson to write that response and incorporate the evidence that they discussed in the class activity. So it's been really nice seeing this take shape at the middle school level, and this is just one example in social studies, but all the different grade levels are doing this. And it relates much like what we're doing in English language arts. I know Erica has some examples too to show what that might look like in an ELA class. So to turn it over to her.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. America Tampson, English Instructional Leader. So to piggyback off of what Darcy and Joe have shared with you thus far, in the instance here, I'm sharing an artifact too, similar to Joe's, that is actually being utilized in writing classes versus our traditional novel study and reading classes. And our team has made an intentional shift this year to implement these strategies from a writer's lens and how they're using what we're calling mentor text. So these teachers, instead of relying on in past practice what might be a whole story read to teach author's craft and structure, are taking shorter, high leverage excerpts to teach specific craft moves. So in doing so, they're not only working through this strategy of the partnered and paired reading, but they're also exposing them to diverse text at the same time. So 2 wins there. They're using the same routines that we might see in a traditional reading class of annotating stop and jots and noticing patterns, but they're tailoring it to the instruction of the focus of the task at hand. In this one here, it's an 8th grade artifact of where they were using excerpts from Poe's Telltale Heart to look at dialogue and how an author creates suspense and speeds up pacing. So they looked at punctuation and conventions in a very focused, nuanced way of critical stop and jots within. So in this instance, I too was able to witness this in action and plan alongside the teachers of this unit. And they practiced seeing the kids doing the reading instead of one reading aloud and then doing the critical stop and jots together. So it's becoming a blueprint in writing in particular to strengthen our Tier 1 instruction, looking at it from, a craft study. It's really reimagining what we're doing and using writing for. I can say the same goes in reading, and it's really a mind shift for teachers thinking about which strategy they want to intentionally use for what purpose. So 8th grade team also in the reading lens decided to plan for a unit launch of The Giver, and they decided to use choral reading. And when we talked through it, choral reading is when everybody reads collectively together at the same time. So it was a launch that introduced all the kids to the text simultaneously. It allowed for some confidence building and maybe our less or more reluctant readers. And we sold it not only as choral reading, but like, how did that make you feel in as an activity leading into the conformity aspects of the thematic concepts explored. So they were able to leverage that as an opportunity for everyone to read together while also, pairing it with some of the concepts that would be explored within the text unit. This next slide here is really just to show you this interdisciplinary approach that Vin might talk about in a little bit, about strengthening how we look at student performance across content areas. So I mention it here because it's directly tied to our Tier 1 instructional strategies that Darcy is talking about taking a deep dive into, especially in 6-8 here. So the image on the left is a highlight of a sampling of Tier 1 instructional strategies that was shared with the ELA team to calibrate in service of the professional development and the active reading. So we're looking at different instances of what those strategies are as we move through our units that make sense for that given lesson or unit. They have sparked conversation, though, across colleagues within the department about consistency, clarity, and shared expectations for student success and learning. And the goal is really, as Darcy mentioned, to strengthen those, and tighten those Tier 1 experiences before going into additional layers of support. The one on the right shows a shared commitment of anchor charts that the 6th grade team committed to as a starting point in ELA and social studies for annotation for shared language and academic use, in which science wants to partner now to just show shared literacy across other content areas. So that literacy is a shared responsibility in the building. This is a method that we can talk to each other consistently across. So this anchor chart is now in all the English social studies, and we're working on getting them drafted up for science who would like to participate in this strategy as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just as a little bit of anecdotal evidence, we have been doing walkthroughs, and it's truly been amazing to walk in and see so many kids engaged in learning. At our last professional development a few weeks ago, one of Joe's social studies teachers raised her hands and said, I have kids who are reading who would have never normally just read. When Erica and I were in an 8th grade language arts class and they were actually doing what was showcased on the screen, it's a tough class. Like, it's that particular class has some tough kids in it who don't always want to engage in learning, and we saw them working together. A student who was very reluctant to read was certainly following along because she took every opportunity to correct her partner that was given to her, and so that let us know she was following along, even if we couldn't see her reading out loud, whereas in a typical setting, if there was one person reading, that child might not have been engaged with the text. So we're certainly seeing the fruits of our labors as we're doing those walkthroughs throughout the building, which is beautiful to see. It's also becoming more comfortable for the students, and they're just used to it because they're doing it in all of the classrooms now. In all of these things that we've talked about in language arts, we have had 3 professional developments relating to this, and we don't expect to see teachers doing a perfect job at this right now. It's a growth process. We continue to give feedback. This is a longer implementation than just a couple of months of here's a PD, go and do it. It's about them having the professional development, using it in their classroom, us being in there giving feedback, and them giving each other feedback as well. But so far, I'm thrilled with what we're seeing and seeing so many students engaged in learning. Which moves us on to our math and our focus on our Tier 1 math instructional practices. We are really focusing right now on our 8 effective math teaching practices, and you heard me talk a little bit about this when I came to speak to you about the donation that we were receiving to bring in Lori Speranzo, and she's following up on the professional development that we have been working on so far this year, so it ties in beautifully. Our focus in math this year, our Tier 1 focus, is to increase the visibility of student thinking in every math lesson. To go back to Hattie's all about visible learning, where you can see what it is that a student is thinking and a student is learning. And we want to be able to do this by training teachers to consistently employ the 8 mathematical teaching practices and foster equitable access and challenge all students to engage in rigorous justification-based reasoning. So in summary, the 8 mathematical teaching practices are really about establishing strong goals for learning. We have to know what it is that we want students to know before we go into that lesson. Implementing tasks that promote reasoning and problem solving, not just giving students an equation that they need to solve, but giving them something that they need to solve so that they have to think about it and they have to apply the mathematics. Using and connecting mathematical representations, and this is one of our big focuses this year. And this is about being able to represent mathematics in the real world, being able to solve mathematics through various avenues. You and I might not be able to solve things the same way, but we might both get to a correct answer. And it's not always about the answer, but sometimes about the journey to get there. And when students can visualize mathematics and use representations, it helps them become more fluent mathematicians. And I always say in reading, we always teach kids you have to have mind movies, right? You have to be able to comprehend what it is you're reading, make a mind movie. We need to do that in math as well. It's not just, again, about solving equations, but about actually understanding what's happening. We're working on facilitating meaningful mathematical discourse where kids can talk about what's happening in the classroom, posing purposeful questions, not just for our students, but amongst our students, where they're asking each other purposeful questions. And really importantly, building procedural fluency from a conceptual understanding. Students need to be able to understand the math in order to apply the math. And we want to make sure that we're supporting their productive struggle and that we're eliciting and using evidence of student thinking. These are our 8 mathematical practices, teaching practices, that we are working on this year. Again, we are not going to become experts at all 8 mathematical affecting teaching practices this year. So we are focusing on a couple of them. This slide up here really focuses on on the right-hand side when we're looking at making that connection between our representations, visual representations, symbolic, physical, contextual, and verbal. And you'll notice that, it's a little dark on there, but arrows that connect all of them, and how students need to be able to dive in and they all connect to one another, where you might solve something symbolically, I might solve something visually. And the one on the left really talks about the understanding of mathematics and what mathematical fluency looks like. It's not about being able to regurgitate facts. That's not a fluent mathematician. Students need to be able to use a conceptual understanding. They need to be able to have productive struggle. They need to have procedural fluency. And these are all kind of pieces of a rope or twine that tie together in order for us to be able to produce efficient mathematicians. Again, I'll kind of go back to that one for a second. When we talk about Hattie and his effect sizes, student discourse has a 0.82 effect size. That's more than 2 years growth. So when we can have students talking about mathematics in the classroom or any classroom, that right there is something that will help our students grow. We have Lori Speranzo coming in to do a full staff PD the morning of January 6th, where she will be working with all staff members on discourse and then breaking off with the math teachers in the afternoon. This is an example. We've had, Lori has come in once, and she kind of observed and met with teachers a little bit on the first day that she was in, and she's coming back December 1st and 2nd to do some embedded professional development and modeling and whatnot with teachers, but this already, after her being in for one day, is a product that came from a classroom. So her point to teachers was, I need to see students, right? I need to see the students making up the classroom, and not the students in their bodies, but the work that they're doing. And so one of her recommendations to teachers was that students create the anchor charts. So not that a teacher's making an anchor chart and hanging it on the wall, for students to then go back and reference, but have students work together to show their understanding of the mathematics, and then that also gives the teacher the opportunity to see what it is that students know and give that feedback. They've then created something, they have ownership over the learning, it remains in the classroom as a resource for everybody else to use. So Lori is going to be in for 7 days, and she will be embedded in classrooms. That's that donation that you all approved. Thank you very much. And she will be in working with teachers to continue the work on the effective mathematical teaching practices. So I will let Jen talk a little bit more about now what's happening with our programming.
Thank you. So to kind of piggyback on what Darcy was just saying, we want to emphasize the opportunity for students to be talking about math, to really develop an understanding and problem solve. And with that in mind, as we are moving into the year where we are reviewing a new programs, possible adoption of a new program, we are trying to find a new textbook, a new program that will allow us to give students the opportunity to develop conceptual understanding, provide materials and supports to teachers, specifically because of the fact that we have had a high teacher turnover. So the more we can support the teachers with our program, the better. And we've also found throughout the last couple of years, we have not been able to get through the entire curriculum because of pacing issues. So we're looking for a series or a program that will help us with that. We often have to sacrifice statistics and probability, which is they are not priority standards, but they still are important mathematical ideas. So we do want to try to get to those. So as we're looking at new programs, some of the things we're looking for is built-in tasks that are conceptual and that routines that really emphasize discourse and a lesson structure that is aligned with our priorities. We're looking for materials that are easier for teachers to navigate, that give them the structure, again, of a lesson that is encouraging kids to do some thinking. It wouldn't help if it was aligned a little bit better with our WIN and our tiered supports and our iReady diagnostics. And we're looking, as I said already, for some pacing. So we anticipate if we can find a program like this, we will see more discourse in the classroom, a deeper understanding of the mathematical concepts. Our instruction and the implementation of the lesson should improve if they have some resources to help them. And hopefully that we will cover all of the standards at the grade level. One of the programs we have looked at this year, we have our 6th grade piloting the iReady math textbook series. We already use iReady for our diagnostic testing of the students, and we use that to guide our intervention program. What we have found is that the lesson design really is building up an understanding for the kids by starting off every lesson with a try it, where they see a real world problem and just think about it. They kind of draws on what they bring into the classroom to set the stage for their learning. They spend a few days discussing it, connecting it, and they have another chance at the end of the lesson to really refine it, where the teacher is given all sorts of resources where they can sit and work in small groups. They can give some of the students who seem to have gotten it enrichment, and they have the proper support that they need to help the kids who are not getting it. So we're finding it so far to be very helpful for our students. And just the fact that this graphic here comes right out of iReady's materials. They're telling you these are the things you should be doing when you're teaching and the things you should see your students doing, and all of the things listed there are things that Darcy was just saying we want to see in the math classroom. Just asking students to turn and talk with their partners. It provides questions to ask the students to get them to really reflect on their learning. So, so far so good with that program. We are still looking at other programs. We will not be implementing 6 through 8 completely until next year, but we are spending this year looking at these programs, piloting units, getting in to observe them to see how it's going. And I think Nate is going to talk about our new science program.
All right, thanks for having me, everybody. So let's jump right into it. Lisa, if I talk too long, give me the look. Thanks for having me, everybody. Nate Testro, assistant principal at the middle school. Last year, due to a change in oversight structure, as well as some of the end-of-year data that came back for science, a team of us met and used a couple different evidence-based sources to choose to pilot a new science curriculum this year. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about tonight, because we are a quarter of the way through the year. The goal of this new science curriculum is twofold, but I'm going to read the goal that I have stated here. The goal is that science teachers will demonstrate high-fidelity implementation of the Amplify Science curriculum, ensuring all students consistently engage with the three dimensions of science through phenomenon-driven inquiry, aligned assessment practices, which should lead to a measurable increase in state proficiency scores. The graphic you see on the right side of the screen is straight from the Next Generation Science Standards, that organization, NGSS. It is a mix of what we expect students to do in all units. So I'm going to give you a brief example. When I grew up, one of the topics that was taught in middle school science was genetics and heredity. And the way it's generally been taught, and if you think back to your own learning in this, teachers will generally cover things like DNA structure. They'll cover things in high school like transcription and translation. Basically, the central dogma of biology is that there is DNA, which creates proteins through a series of processes, and then that creates traits, how we look, different parts of us. And traditionally, that is formatted in a way that where students are not acting as scientists. And this curriculum puts a very high emphasis on contextualization of what it means to be a scientist. So when I was a kid, it would look like covering DNA, quiz on DNA. Then covering transcription, quiz on transcription. Covering translation, quiz on translation. From there, moving into some sort of Mendelian genetics. Some of you might remember the pea plants that Gregor Mendel worked on in middle school. I see some head shaking, yes. So the difference between that and what we're seeing now in this piloted curriculum is really context. I co-taught a class today with a 6th grade science teacher who is covering genetics and heredity. And in this unit, students act as a biologist who has a goal of determining what sort of spider silk would work the best to build artificial ligaments and tendons. They learn the topics of DNA, the baby version of course, we're not in high school yet, transcription and translation. They learn that DNA is packaged into chromosomes, and then they are assessed with, as Gregor Mendel did with pea plants, they are tasked with creating different reproductive environments with different spiders and tracking how their features change over time. They are learning, in orange, the core ideas of genetics and heredity, but because of the way that the unit is structured, as we know materials matter, they are really working within the scientific practices. To be exact, today's scientific practice was developing and adding to a model where students were mapping how different chromosome sections, parts of the packaged DNA, directly relate to the shape of proteins and how that triggers different traits. So that was today's practice in that lesson that I co-taught with that teacher. And the cross-cutting concept that we covered today specifically was scale and proportionality. Students learned that the size of the chromosome does not affect the size of the protein. So a key difference in these units, and I'll move on very, very soon, is that students are acting as baby scientists and they're doing the science. And some through lines, these are evidence-based practices. This is what NGSS expects of us, and we're happy that we are doing it. Secondarily, we are using evidence-based materials, and I can tell you engagement is through the roof. It is hard to get me out of classrooms right now doing it with the teachers. So that's my first slide. Secondarily, the other really important thing to talk about is that we are implementing a new standard aligned pacing guide. It was built over the summer. It seems to be pretty effective so far. We're pretty much on pace, which is fantastic because part of being rigorous is covering all the content. We have 3 domains in science: We have earth and space, we have life, and we have physical. And it's important that we get through all the things, because at the end of 8th grade, they have to take that assessment, they have to show proficiency. And the good news is so far, the pacing guides for this pilot have been pretty spot on, which makes me really happy. Explicitly teaching digital tools, the curriculum that we're piloting, Amplify, fantastic digital tools. The simulations within Amplify are extremely similar to the types of simulations kids see on the NGSS end of 8th grade year test. And that's awesome, because they're getting used to using similar tools while engaged in really authentic experiences. Another big pro that I'm really happy about, the end of unit assessments, as well as the SBAC practice tests, are directly aligned to what they're learning in the curriculum. We have moved past having kids take practice tests to teach test-taking skills. Now we are taking those practice tests directly after the unit to track proficiency, and it lets me map back what I need to do as the administrator to make tweaks the coming year. We're tracking one-year trends, thanks Lisa. We're tracking multi-year trends, which I'm really, really excited about. So I'll know how to pivot to get more out of my staff and kids. Lastly, this is another through line, instructional routines. Amplify has really, really, really engaging instructional routines. First off, every unit has a phenomenon, which is great. I gave you the spider silk example for what 6th grade is doing right now. Other instructional routines in terms of, in terms of how it connects to ELA, there are close reading routines that have really, really nailed down procedures, and they're working very well. They're scaffolded in Unit 1 each year. They start off with a very teacher-driven, highly executive function chunked version of close reading. And as they build throughout the year, there is a gradual release of responsibility, which I observed yesterday, and we were able to see the difference, which was really beautiful. And it does tie in well. And those teachers are looking to Erica Tamson to know how the ELA department's doing it, to make tweaks, to make it more cohesive across the board. And lastly, science seminars, which sounds really similar to Socratic seminars, because it is. So that's another instructional routine that happens very frequently throughout the curriculum. It's nice, it's cohesive with what ELA does. And also, these are the core instructional routines that Amplify uses for sense-making processes within the science curriculum, which is nice because NGSS demands it, and there's a multitude, concept maps, summary tables, right? But they have chosen these as their go-tos, which makes me happy because as someone who has the bird's eye view, it's mapped really well. So like 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, they're all engaging with certain sense-making routines at a similar time in the pacing guide. So that allows me to plan PD that is directly impactful to all my staff at the same time, which makes me ecstatic. It makes it easy for me. So far the pilot has been really successful. I can talk about it all day. I won't, but this is the thing that Darcy and Mrs. Velius have to make me stop talking about because it is the most fun part of my job. So more than happy to talk to you about it more after, but that is what is going on in science. You should expect to see growth in coming years. I will make sure of it. Thanks. All right.
Thank you.
You want me to not do this and I'll be fast. All right. We're like middle schoolers. We're chatting. Anyway, so our last piece is refining our tiered interventions. You've heard about our tiered intervention program over the past few years. We've spent a lot of time on it so that we can address students' individual needs. What we're doing this year is we're refining it a bit. We're just making it a little bit better. One of the things that we're doing, I'm going to go quickly and just one of the things that we're doing is we shifted about 2 weeks ago to make sure that our second language learners who receive ELL support can also receive math support now. So they were not in a math win before because they were receiving their ELL services during that time. So with some changes, we were able to then start to provide them structured supports in math as well, which we're really, really excited about. The second piece that we're really working hard on this year, to go back to the data that Assistant Superintendent Velius presented at the beginning of the presentation regarding kind of our yellow band kids, is putting them into classes very, very specifically grouped with even more specific targeted instruction than we were before to make sure that we're moving those students forward. We are monitoring them along with our regular students in our SRVI program to make sure that they are continuing to make that growth and that we are making the overall growth that we're looking for this year. Is that fast enough? Yes. All right. In conclusion, we're just simply looking for a continuous cycle of improvement, continuing to work collaboratively to support teachers in moving forward and supporting students. Thank you.
So given time, do you want to keep going? Start at the high school now?
It is
7.
approaching 7 o'clock. Would we like a short break and like re-engage as an extension of the assistant superintendent report to hear from the high school team?
What are you guys doing?
Well, I shouldn't be asking.
Right. To the whole group. Or are you okay if the high school just continues? Keep going? Jen says keep it going, and I second.
All right.
I was going to say that was an hour ago. Just glad I ate dinner before the meeting. All right. Hi, everybody. How are you tonight? Thank you so much for having us here today. Our team is going to present to you over the next few minutes with respect to some of the work that we've been doing here at East Haven High School. Our theme for the year is barriers to bridges, and I think over the next several slides we'll talk through why we selected that theme in our work over the summer as we really started to look at our end of year data from 24-25. As we ended the school year and began our summer work, we're certainly proud of some of the growth that we made relative to our gains in some areas of the SAT and NGSS. But one of the data points that continued to shine over the summer as we continued to look and dive into it was the number of high need students at East Haven High School that continue to fall into the critical range from an academic, an attendance, and a behavioral standpoint in comparison to non-high need students. So when I say high need students, we're referring to our multilingual learners, our 504 students, and our special education students. So over the course of the next few slides, we'll share some of that with you tonight, the work that we planned throughout the summer to be implemented for this school year in relation to those statistical data. What we're not seeing is, in our BOY data, we're not seeing huge shifts yet from this time last year, from quarter one at the end of 2024-25 to the end of quarter one of 25-26. And we're certainly hoping that the work that we continue to do over the next several months will yield the results that we hope for. Our noticings, as I mentioned, are opportunities as well, right? Opportunities for us to strengthen our Tier 1 instructional strategies and student engagement levels. Our opportunities to improve our school climate and culture for both staff and students. The disparities in achievement among high-need students and non-high-need students, and then the need to strengthen our systems of supports through our MTSS and data team processes. So our problem of practice as a team and as a school this year was how can we strengthen Tier 1 instruction and support systems to close the opportunity gaps and improve engagement for all of our learners here. Thank you. So with respect to goal setting for us as a school, we identified 3 general strategic goals, but under the umbrella of creating equitable access to high-quality learning experiences for all students through effective instruction, strong relationship building, and data-driven support throughout the course of the school day. Our focus is in 3 areas: Tier 1 instruction and student engagement, safe school climate, and the opportunity gap, again, with high-need students. So our focus, our Tier 1 instruction and student engagement is focused on the instructional framework. All right, the goal of our work with the instructional framework over the last several months, this goes back into some work that we've done over the last couple of years, is creating a shared understanding of what high-quality Tier 1 instruction looks like in order to support all of our learners here at school. What this does is ensure consistency with high-quality instruction when we have a shared understanding and a shared vision for what that looks like. It supports clear, measurable learning. It promotes equity within the classrooms. It guides teachers through coherent lesson flow. It strengthens Tier 1 instruction. And it provides a foundation for coaching and feedback through the evaluation process that we as administrators work closely with our teaching staff on a day-to-day basis. So Tier 1 instruction and student engagement. The goal, create a shared understanding, again, of high-quality Tier 1 instruction to support all learners and increase student engagement and active learning. So our first action step is to really dive into our Atlas curriculum platform to continue the work of identifying priority standards and supporting standards for each unit of instruction. We've worked closely with the Assistant Superintendent's Office and the Superintendent's Office to ensure that our teaching staff has an opportunity and a time and space to do that, whether it's through release time, collaborative team meetings, or academic and collaboration time, and professional learning experiences. That graphic right there, and I know you'll get this slide deck if you don't have it already, is just an image of what teachers see when they go into Atlas and identify what the priority standard is for the unit of instruction that they are preparing to teach. The benefits of identifying priority standards versus supporting standards, it directs intentional pacing, focus, and assessment development. So priority standards are those that teachers must spend the most time with. They have to dedicate all of their time or most of their time within that unit, ensuring that there's multiple days of practice, modeling, and application that is measured by common assessments, both formative and summative assessments. This prevents our staff from rushing through crucial high-leverage skills. Teachers collaborate, and this is where that shared understanding comes from. They collaborate on the design of Tier 1 lessons that utilize high-demand activities like Socratic seminars that you heard obviously a little bit about from the middle school, problem-based learning, or complex essay writing, to name a few examples. The core summative assessment is then aligned perfectly to measure those complex skills that are identified in the priority standard. The supporting standards are those that are integrated into instruction of the priority standards. They are not explicitly taught or assessed, but they may have been taught or assessed in previous units of instruction or through lesson design. This may be, again, spiraled from previous units or other areas of the instruction to address the learning gaps that we see with our students. Continuing with that goal of that shared understanding of Tier 1, we are continuing to use our academic and collaboration time meetings and our interdisciplinary data teams to share effective, active learning strategies to be implemented across content areas. So we've built our structure. When we went to the block and a couple of years after the block schedule, we implemented and introduced a flex block, as many of you are aware of. That flex block affords students opportunities to get support when they may need it through office hours, but it also gives time and space for our teachers to meet with their content area teams, grade level teams or common course teams within their departments. So that academic and collaboration time, you can skip to that next slide. The ACT time, as we call it, was designed to give space for our teachers to have time throughout the course of the school day, not after school hours, once a month like it was prior to. That really came and was driven by our NEASC standards, our NEASC evaluation back in 2022, when we were conducting a self-study and we were surveying our staff and the stakeholders here. What are some of the needs that we have and some of the things that we don't have? One of the things that we didn't really have an opportunity for was for teachers to have the opportunity to collaborate with each other during common planning or preparation time. It just, our schedule did not afford or allow for that. Those twice a month meetings, we meet 3 times a month as a faculty. One's a full faculty, and then we have department and data meetings. It just didn't seem like we were connected. We would meet, and then 4 weeks later, we would meet again to discuss the same topics. So we introduced the idea of academic and collaboration time during our flex block, where teachers have an opportunity to meet and collaborate with one another. It's where they have the opportunity to share effective strategies, they have the opportunity to share student performance data on departmental assessments, common assessments. They review and collaborate on the scoring of those assessments to make sure they're calibrated. So a number of things happen during that academic and collaboration time space. That graphic is just an example of some of the note-taking templates that we use to document and monitor our growth as professionals, to track the work that we do during that ACT time. That ACT time meets 24 times per school year, 12 times in semester 1 and 12 more times in semester 2. So when you look at that, when they had the opportunity to meet as a group just 9 times throughout the course of the school year, when they met in those after-school meetings on Tuesdays, now we've nearly tripled those touch points with colleagues and allowed for those after-school meetings to continue with that work throughout the course of the day. Another layer that we made some adjustments to this year is interdisciplinary data teams. We are now using after-school time to put our staff into interdisciplinary data groups. Another piece of feedback that we heard from staff is they don't very often get to meet with colleagues from other departments within our building. Very rarely does an art teacher get to learn from a language arts teacher some of the reading strategies or writing strategies that they may be looking to implement in their content areas. Interdisciplinary groups this year was an opportunity for teachers to follow or identify exceptional students, students who are receiving, again, special education support, multilingual learners, 504 students, perhaps a student who's got high chronic absenteeism and is a pattern of that. Identify a student or two in those areas and bring that performance data on that student to our interdisciplinary data teams. They don't always share those same students. At times they do. And what they are asked to do is engage in a protocol, that's that graphic there, a protocol to identify and work through Tier 1 instructional strategies that they have been implementing in their classroom to try to address the needs of students on a regular basis. And then it gives them the opportunity as well to share those Tier 1 instructional strategies that they're finding to be most effective. That data is also driving some of our professional learning work throughout the course of the school year and student data findings during those data teams. Transitioning a little bit, we are, I'm going to ask Mr. Anthony Russell, one of our 2 assistant principals, to come up. We recognize the importance of school connectedness to student achievement and student performance at school. And as such, every year when we develop our school improvement goals, the school climate and culture is always part of that goal. I'm going to let Mr. Russell speak to some of the work that is being done that he's leading throughout the course of the school day here.
Good evening. He stole my intro, so I'm going to have to pick up where he left off. But just a little background. The General Assembly passed legislation where each school has to develop a safe school climate improvement plan. As somebody who deals a lot with the students and the disciplinary aspect of the job, you realize how critical it is that students come in feeling safe, that they feel included, that they feel respected and supported, because all that is conducive to learning. So without that framework, you know, it makes all this work that we're talking about with instructional strategies, you know, a moot point if kids don't come in and they feel safe. So one of the things that we have to do is that we have to develop a Safe School Climate Committee and a coordinator with an emphasis on restorative practices, social emotional learning, and equitable disciplinary procedures. You know, behavior is a form of communication, and if you don't meet the most basic needs of students on the front end, you're going to deal with their behaviors on the back end. So I really embrace this work. I mean, I love working with these kids, and, you know, you can see every day them trying to push through in light of all the things that are going on outside of school. So they are developing that resiliency, and we are seeing that. Some of the other things that the Climate Committee is going to do is we're going to review and analyze school climate and behavioral data. We're going to recommend evidence-based interventions and initiatives. And we also want to positively recognize both students and staff through the Kindness Club and kind of resurrect our Sunshine Club, because that stuff is important. When looking at some of our strategic priority areas and goals, I'm not going to go through all of them, and they're a little small right now, so you're probably not going to be able to read them. But some of our priority areas, for example, our student belonging and respect is based on some of the data, some of the baseline data that we got from the Panorama survey, where, you know, 74% answered favorably in terms of the fact that they feel like they completely or mostly belong at EHHS. However, you know, 74% seems good, but you still have 26% that they don't feel that sense of belonging. So this data, the survey data in Panorama, allows us to micro-target those kids and possibly funnel them into something where they feel a sense of belonging. Another one is teacher and staff behavioral support. And the survey item was, I feel supported in with managing challenging behavior in the classroom environment. We had a small data pool and only 50% felt favorable there, so we know that we have some work to do in terms of making them feel supported. And, by doing that, we want to expand our use of restorative responses to discipline and provide ongoing professional development, which includes de-escalation tactics in the classroom. We're trying to collect the data because restorative conversations happen all throughout the day, and a lot of times we can't capture those conversations and some of those times when a teacher is utilizing that restorative approach. So we're engaging our tech department to input a restorative option in our log entries so that we can track that and then look at the disciplinary data next to the restorative, and the hope is that the restorative data is going to be higher than the disciplinary data. But sometimes it is necessary to utilize those. Some of the highlights I just want to point out in terms of our beginning of the year data is that last year to this point, we saw 222 behavioral incidents and we're down to 138, which is a 30 to 40% decrease. Our suspensions are down almost 33% from 34 to 23. So we are seeing the needle being moved. Chronic absenteeism also, when kids feel a sense of belonging and we're meeting the needs of the students, they're more apt to come to school. So at this point, our total chronic absenteeism was 22%, and right now it hovers at about 16%, but we're seeing growth going in in a good direction. And lastly, is family engagement, and through the implementation of Parent Square and other centralized communication components, we are reaching the parents more. We're seeing the attendance going up at parent-teacher night. So we're starting to move the needle in that direction. Right now, we looked at the last year's end of the year Panorama survey, and we saw that 75 parent or guardian responders responded to the survey. However, that's difficult to ascertain because in terms of the percentage, because it could be a parent that has multiple students at our school. It could be both of the parents are filling it out for one household. So we need to drill down on that data and make sure that we're getting more, granular so we can see who is and who is not, because that information that they're giving us is very important. So we're trying to take a holistic approach, to culture and climate, and, hopefully we're making these kids feel safe and want to come here and want to learn, and it's great work.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. So moving on to our third and final focus area for the school year is how do we address the opportunity gap with our high-needs students? We engaged in an exercise with the full faculty back in August when we returned to school, where every start of every school year, every teacher for the most part sees if they're teaching full year classes, 110 to 125 brand new students that they may not have had the year before. And we really wanted to give time and opportunity for staff to really look at some previous year's data to get to know their students before they actually got to meet them and get to know them. So we had our staff engage in an activity where they looked through Panorama data to identify their high-need students using multiple sources, whether that was academic performance data. It may have been iReady data coming in from middle school. If they were a ninth grade teacher, looking at their previous attendance data to see if there was any gaps in their attendance from the previous year, or was that something that's been a pattern over the last several years of their attendance at school. Have there been any behavioral incidences that may have been something that we should note? The SEL data that Mr. Russell's referring to. So we asked them to dive into that data and use that to develop a little bit of a profile of who their class is, each of their 5 teaching blocks that they have here. That allows for them to plan accordingly and plan responsibly and plan with purpose when they're developing lessons with respect to flexible grouping, the selection of the materials and the content that they have to bring with them when they're designing lessons. Differentiation of instruction. It allows them to identify which students that maybe they need to recommend for office hours when we have those opportunities for students to get supports. Which students should we group with others? What might be a student's trigger that we might want to keep in mind when we're working with students so that we can keep them feeling connected to our school. We know that the data shows us that the 103 students that in quarter one that were at risk from an attendance standpoint, as defined in Panorama, were also 3/4 of them, or 73% of them, critical in at least one subject academically here at school. So we know that there's a direct correlation to attendance in school and their performance every day. We know that our special education students have a 10% more likelihood to struggle in that critical range of academics here, where they're failing one or more course. 504 students are 15% more likely to be in that critical range, and our multilingual learners are at a 5%. So our high-need students are struggling more academically than our non-high-need students, and that's what the data shows us. So what are we doing, and what's the work that we do every single day to address those gaps and seize some of the opportunities that we have to ensure that we're providing equitable access to our curriculum and to the resources that we have here every single day at school. I'm going to now turn it over to Mrs. Pompano, who is leading our Panorama MTSS redesign here at East Haven High School.
Good evening. So this year we are working very hard in MTSS. It is very complicated, I think, at the high school level to look at students in this type of process because they're older and a lot of them have already kind of formed their academic habits, so it can be very challenging. We are working as a team there that consists of our guidance and support staff, 3 classroom teachers, an administrator, which is me, and we meet twice weekly either to plan on a work day or to meet together as a team to discuss students. We're reviewing referrals during that time. We're utilizing an MTSS manual that was designed by Assistant Superintendent Lisa and in partnership with some of those team members, and just so that we can have some consistency in our processes. And reaching out to teachers, we have a template, and working with students to interview them and to make observations of what kinds of behaviors are we seeing in the classroom. We have some templates, and that's really allowing us to work together in a consistent way when we're reaching out and trying to gather more information about our students. We've spent kind of this first quarter really focused on creating watch groups, looking at the data, looking at our most at-risk seniors, for example, because we want to get them to the finish line, and so we started with them. Looking at our students who are chronically absent and starting a watch group with them. And Panorama has been an awesome tool. You saw Lisa show kind of the overview of the school at a glance. And last year was the first time we kind of really got teachers' feet wet inside Panorama. So this year it's really important for them to take that next kind of leap in. And that's our job. We really have to engage them. So in the first quarter, like I said, we've kind of been doing most of the heavy lifting, collecting information, creating the watch groups, talking to students, reaching out to teachers. But now as we move into quarter 2 and we have the quarter 1 data, we're able now to take the next step. And so we are actively looking at our students that are critical in academics, and now taking the step to reach out to those teachers so that then we can make a plan and set up interventions that are more academic in nature. Last year, we had about 192 intervention plans in Panorama, and only about 38 to 40 of them were in academic in nature. And so we realize now it's time to get the teachers on board, and they're ready because they've been dabbling, so they're ready to get in and do the work. But now, we have to be partners with them, and that's kind of our job. It's almost like a professional development, embedded in the work. We also are working with our chronic chronically absent students, we've offered an attendance recovery in the past, and this year we've kind of taken it into our MTSS umbrella, and we are rebranding it and calling it an attendance success program, really because we want our students to know that we care about them and we want them to be in school, and it's not a punishment. Oh, you're not coming to school, we're going to punish you now and you have to go to this recovery. We want really to support them. And so we've invited about 40 students that are chronically absent to attend an after-school attendance success program. It starts tomorrow, and there's some flexibility with days. The number of hours they have to attend is in line with how much time they've missed, but really the goal is to get them here to reflect on attendance and why it's so important, and also to give them support if they have work to do, and also to do some kind of career exploration. I know Lisa mentioned our Naviance program, and we're really going to use that as well in the program, because some kids will come and they'll say, I've already done all my work, I don't have anything to do. Well, yes, because we have so much to offer them, and they can write a resume, we can help them with that. They can do some career exploration. They can email their teachers. There are a lot of things that we can support them with, and that's what we want the program to be. We want them to understand that school is a place where we care and we want to help them. And so that's kind of the focus of our attendance success this year. So if you hear that, that's what they're referring to, and we're hopeful that it's going to change behavior, because that's the ultimate goal. And we've told them, you know, you're going to come, you're going to attend, you've got a couple of days leeway where we understand you might be sick, but if we don't see a change in behavior, then, you know, we might have to withhold your credit. So we're going to be counseling with them. Each time they come, they're going to reflect on their attendance thus far, and then we are utilizing Panorama and creating an intervention plan just for those students and tagging a classroom teacher to that, so that that classroom teacher can check in with them weekly and say, hey, I noticed you've been here all week. Great job. So happy to see you. Just because we want to extend that, you know, that feeling of belonging and them being here, kind of to piggyback off of the climate committee. There is an attached, we don't have to bring it up right now, but I'm sending out a biweekly MTSS newsletter for staff, just so that they get information about how many referrals they're making, how many, you know, what do our critical students look like, what are some, you know, tricks that they can maybe use, just some informational items, so that MTSS is on their mind, it's visible, and they know it's a living team that's working hard in the school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll just quickly transition to our instructional leadership team. They'll speak to you about some of the academic interventions that we are implementing here to try to support and close those gaps that we mentioned.
Good evening again. I'm going to just talk to you first a little bit about a partnership between ELA and social studies or humanities this year, that we made some adjustments to the academic seminar to strengthen alignment this year. And it really is in service of the work that MTSS is doing and the changes that they're making. So we're now using a shared structure in the humanities that prioritizes targeted support in 3 core areas. So we're focused on academic content and skills. We are looking at general study strategies and executive functioning. So if you can envision it almost in a station model where kids are working in one of those 3 domains with additional support of a certified teacher, either from English or social studies. We found that this is creating a more cohesive experience across content areas, and really is ensuring that the foundational skills that we're building are reinforced consistently across disciplines. So it doesn't matter if they have an ELA teacher or a social studies teacher, there's a consistent expectation with the services being provided. We're currently servicing about 50 students in academic seminar for semester 1, and they are primarily in grades 9 and 10. They are recommended for this course in consultation with previous teachers, so either recommendations made at the 8th grade level in partnership with Joe and myself, or from 9th grade into 10th with their counselors, and now currently an adjustment made with the MTSS team. The overarching goal of this programming and intervention is just responsiveness. Students really are receiving support when they need it. Once they demonstrate readiness and independence, our plan is to transition them out. So similar to the progress monitoring that Maria just talked to you a little bit about, we want to use this as an intervention as what's needed to fit the scheduling here versus when is done at the middle school where they're making adjustments through progress monitoring as well. So we are constantly monitoring, ensuring, and we are looking forward to our first iteration of student review with possible dismissal or continuation based on what student need presents. I'll kick it over to Joe to tell you a little bit more about that.
Hi again. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of the general structure of the academic seminar course, it's a 75-minute course that meets every other day. As Erica mentioned, an English teacher or a social studies teacher has a group of students that have been recommended for that course. And we really worked a lot with the teachers over the summer to develop that new vision for the course and to have a common way that they approached it. So through professional development with them, we came up with a structure where every day students come in and they start off as a whole group where the teacher might have a short lesson that relates to a skill that they're focusing on in either their English or their social studies class. But then students break off and they're able to do more individualized work that relates to areas that they may be focusing on in their academic courses. And we've created a choice board that we've included an example of on the screen here that students are able to select activities from that they do during part of the period. So all those activities relate to either academic support, study skills, or executive functioning. And the expectation is that students do so many activities in each of those areas over the course of a 2-week period. And then they meet with the teacher to reflect on what progress they've made in those areas that they have identified together for that activity. So that's about a 30-minute activity each day in class. And then the other 30 minutes is more individualized support where students may be working on assignments or doing some preliminary work for courses that they're taking. And then the teacher is able to actually meet with them one-on-one and give them more direct instruction related to that. What's nice about it is over the summer, the teachers had time to really get to know the students in the course and look at data through different platforms that we have to develop more individualized profiles for the students. And so they're able to see what their goals should be up front that they're able to set and then monitor throughout the semester. So like Erica said, we're hoping that this is more of a dynamic type of structure where students are able to come in and exit as they need support. But we're happy so far with the progress this year, and we'll give an update as we go through the whole year with it. So that's humanities. Jen has some updates for math supports.
So in the math, we're losing Vanna. We really wanted to focus, I believe it was Vinny, or somebody at the beginning, Lisa pointed out that our students at the proficiency level in 8th grade did not really drop too drastically in the 9th grade, but our kids that were close are not as close anymore. Somehow those lower performing students are losing more of their knowledge. So we really wanted to think about how can we help more students master Algebra 1, especially those who are starting with significant unfinished learning. We had last year we were able to offer a few sections of what we called Algebra 1 seminars, similar to the academic support class, where we serviced 21 kids, and at the end of the year, 15 of those 21 kids did end up passing Algebra 1. And I don't have the exact number, but the ones who did not, often it was a case of attendance. So we had some evidence that it was helping. And what our Algebra 1 seminar course is Algebra 1 is offered 3 days out of 4 on a rotation. That 4th day has been many different things over the years, but this year, for the students who need it, it's Algebra 1 seminar. They have a 4th day of math. What we do is we target the instruction to the standards that are necessary for success in their current unit of study in algebra class. So while they have significant gaps, we're focusing on the ones they need to be successful in their grade level learning. We progress monitor We do also offer them support with their work in algebra class if they need it. Similar to how the academic seminar course runs, they break it into stations. They're working on various things. We do review the data regularly. At the end of quarter one, we identified almost 30 students. I didn't mention, we are servicing over 90 students this year. We were able to get the time to get to 90 of our students identified by SBAC scores, iReady scores, teacher recommendation, various things. And at the end of quarter one, we were able to exit, or could have exited, at least 30, but actually some of them wanted to stay. So that was a good sign. So they didn't want to leave. They were appreciating the support. And when I say that we could have exited them, they were doing fine on the progress monitoring. They ended up with a B or better at the end of quarter one for Algebra 1. But who am I to deny them? So they stayed. And we were even able to pick up a few new kids that we had not seen. They might have been new to the district, or they hadn't been identified. So that's so far so good. We also realized that there were just some students. We had not offered anything lower than Algebra 1 in years other than our direct service classes, and we decided we need to start addressing some of the students whose gaps are just so big. They just are not ready for Algebra 1, and so we created our Foundations of Math course this year. We have a special ed teacher and a math teacher teaching it together. It's below grade level content. They're really trying. We're going through 8th grade, basically, the 8th grade standards, and getting them ready so that they can be successful next year in Algebra 1. And then our final programming change, we had last year and the year before, I believe, had a section of just Algebra 1 solely full of ML students, multi-language learners, and we started to see that it really is better for them to be with some peers that are speaking English, and they can collaborate and discuss, and we have made it a co-taught class. There is an ELL teacher along with a math teacher. We have 2 sections of it running this year, and again, initial reports, grades for quarter one. Yes, we had a few failures, but not nearly as many as we had last year in our segregated ESL course. So that's what's going on in math.
Wrapping it up. Okay. Any longer, we could present end-of-year data, so. So anyway. So thank you to our instructional leadership team, our assistant principals. They're doing amazing work every single day with kids and staff to really try to address the needs that we have here from a school, as a school, from an academic perspective, and then also an emotional and social perspective as well. We have a number of sources of pride and accomplishment. Our career and technical education program, as I know that you're aware of, because they've been in front of you presenting, continues to grow and expand. The greenhouse last year was a huge developmental part of our not just our facilities, but allows us to integrate with our science clubs and just do so many different things within our school. Again, I mentioned the growth in 24-25 performance data. We were recognized for the growth in our dual enrollment programs, as Ms. Velius mentioned, the growth from 23-24 to 24-25, and we are continuing with that, those numbers now. We had about 12 students all of last year in experiential learning or internship programs. We're already at 18 students this year who are going out into the community and getting some real workforce experience as part of our scheduling here. And that BTTI program that Mr. Fernandez presented last year, we had a few students attend back in late May and June, and we are partnering with them again this year. They'll actually be here providing opportunities to students and bringing instructors right into our building here to further enhance that program. So we really are proud of the growth and the college and career readiness focus that we've engaged in over the course of the last couple of years here particularly, but we still have targeted areas for growth and opportunity. We know that. We have some students, we just administered the PSAT last month, 121 students in grades 10 and 11 were identified as having AP potential in one or more of the AP classes that we teach here at East Haven High School. The state of Connecticut sends letters out to students directly. The State Department of Education based on their SBAC, their PSAT, or their SAT, referred to as their rigorous coursework letters. That's identifying students who should be taking specific courses or engaged in specific pathways here at school. That really helps our guidance staff and those students and families identify what courses they should be enrolling in as they go through the course selection process from year to year. I mentioned the Atlas work that we're continuing to engage in. Mrs. Velius mentioned Naviance and how we're rolling that out to students and families this year with the Vision of the Graduate portfolio. We mentioned continuing to leverage the opportunities for staff here between ACT and data teams to really engage in meaningful professional learning and growth throughout the course of the school year. Our MTSS process is refined and up and running, and Panorama has been an amazing tool for us to use, and we are continuing our work to identify different pathways for students and identify pathways of coursework that students should engage in based on what maybe their future plans should be. Should they be taking a specific pathway within math if they are planning to go into particular collegiate major at some point, as an example. So we have, some targeted areas of opportunity that we are continuing to refine and build upon the strengths that we already have here. And I think that pretty much covers the wrap-up of last school year, the data that we analyzed, how we spent our summer trying to develop intervention plans and school improvement plans to support our students and our teachers so that we could meet the needs of all of our kids every single day here. So thank you for the opportunity for being in front of you this evening, and the patience as well. So.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great. So I'd like to thank our 612 leadership team for that robust presentation. It's really clear the passion and expertise to bridge both evidence-based practices as well as broad constituent feedback to work alongside educators to really impact opportunities for our kids. So appreciate that. I'm going to recommend maybe we take just a couple of minutes to reset, and then we'll start our meeting. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call our board meeting to order, beginning with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we're going to begin this evening with roll call. Ms. DePalma?
Here.
Ms. DeLungo?
Here.
Mr. Hennessy? Ms. Johnson?
Here.
Ms. Putney?
Here.
Ms. Santiago?
Here.
Mr. Stacy?
Here.
Ms. Torello?
Here.
And Dr. DeLucia.
Here.
All right, so this evening we are going to start with Board of Ed officer elections. And so we're going to start by asking if there are any nominations for the position of board chair.
Okay. Just speak out. Yes, I would like to nominate Michelle, Dr. DeLucia, for this position, based on obvious reasons, but she's done. So, well, I think we should keep going in that direction.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And are there any other nominations for the position of board chair? All right. So you have a ballot at your seat. If you can, your name goes at the top, and then if you could go ahead and cast your vote next to the board chair. All right. Next, we will ask for nominations for the position of board vice chair.
I would like to nominate Tia DePalma.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations for the position of board vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Mary Ann Johnson.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations for the position of vice chair? All right. You can go ahead and cast your vote on your ballot. All right, and finally, I will ask for nominations for the position of board secretary.
Yes, I would like to nominate, I'm so sorry, Erica Santiago.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for the position of board secretary? All right, you can go ahead and cast your vote. All right, we're going to take just a short moment to collect those ballots. We'll tally them up and then report out. So we'll take just a moment, and I will ask Assistant Superintendent Lisa Velius to do the collection and to help review the results. Tally those ups. The results are as follows. For the position of board chair, 7 for Dr. DeLucia, 1 abstention. So Dr. DeLucia is appointed. For the position of board vice chair, 6 for Ms. DePalma, 2 for Ms. Johnson. Ms. DePalma is appointed board vice chair. And for the position of board secretary, we have 7 for Ms. Santiago with 1 abstention, and Ms. Santiago is appointed board secretary. So thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Give me my gavel now. All right. All right, let's get started. Is there any correspondence this evening?
None.
Okay. Standing committee reports. Wait, Jack first.
Athletics, okay, just quickly, the last regular season football game will be this Thursday, 6 p.m. It'll be senior night and Veterans Night. Veterans will be honored prior to the game or at the coin toss, right after the seniors are honored. Okay? Frank McCarthy will be the honored veteran. He's a East Haven resident who went on to University of Notre Dame, served in the United States Army, and was an FBI special agent for most of his career. Okay? Thanksgiving game this year is home here in East Haven. That's at 10 a.m. Lena Onofrio is the new pom-pom coach, and congratulations to her and wish her success. And we'll be starting winter sports very soon, December 1st, and looking for another great season.
Okay. Thank you, Jack.
Yep.
T?
Nothing new
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, no.
Status quo.
That's good. That's at this point. And nothing in policy. So I will turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you. Before I turn things over to our guest presenters that we have with us tonight, I just wanted to take an opportunity to reiterate my thanks to the 612 administrative team. I think looking across both tonight and back to our elementary presentation with BOI data and action planning, it's really clear to see a few through lines. This investment in Tier 1 instruction, really looking beyond programs to think about the instructional practices that engage all students and that are really empowering them to build the skills that they need to grapple with and master grade level expectations. We also see this through line of working on our curriculum to ensure that students' time is really best utilized to build mastery with the priority standards and foster conceptual understanding so that they're able to sustain that learning. And it's really heartening to see that work happening, both sustaining program for students on and above grade level and continuing to see that recognition with our students graduating with college and career readiness to propel them forward. And I think we'll see a great example of that this evening. But also thinking about the supports necessary to bolster those that are not yet working at grade level and what that means to make sure that they still feel a sense of inclusion and belonging and have an accelerated path to their learning. And then finally, moving beyond some initial implementation towards strategic utilization of our data platforms, both in designing targeted interventions, but then also assessing the impact for student system learning. So my gratitude to Assistant Superintendent Lisa Vilius for her work to coordinate those, and again for the team and for everyone hanging in there as very engaged audience members. Much appreciated. Also, just a couple of things to highlight. We do have our fall conferences continuing into next week. There is also an opportunity, if you have not yet and you're watching from home, our Family School Partnership Survey remains open through the conclusion of conferences because we really do seek your feedback. We look through those surveys, both at the quantitative data, but also the qualitative remarks that help us to think about where we need to drive improvement in schools. And the event schedule is also added to your board drive. Our principals have been populating that, and I wanted to draw attention to it, especially because this year I mentioned that we have Not only Tuttle, who led the charge, Mamagua and Deer Run, but this year, for the first time, East Haven Academy is joining with our Connecticut Literacy Model Family Engagement Literacy Nights. The first round of those kick off with Tuttle this Thursday. Those are really fantastic events that merge what our families are asking for. Fun activities through a learning lens that you can engage multi-generational as a family, come together as a community. So take a look at those dates, and I encourage you to attend because the teams have been working hard. But at this time, I'd like to turn over to, we have Mr. Fernandez and students from our woodworking class who are here to report on the work and the learning that they are doing across woodworking and manufacturing in alignment with the Soldiers Cross sign that they brought examples of. So take it away, gentlemen.
So my name is Jared Fernandez. I'm the woodworking teacher here at East Haven High School, and I'm here with my woodworking 3 class, which is going to talk about this Veterans Day project initiative they have. Cameron's going to take the lead and get us started.
First off, thank you everyone for having us here and giving us the chance to show you guys what we've been working on with the community over the past couple of months. Just like you said, I'm Cameron Foster. All of us 4 have been working extremely hard and with Jack Stacy, especially with veterans, to push this product.
Hello, I'm Jonathan, and I help to design the product of the fallen soldier. In the future, I want to be a laborer or a HVAC worker, and I'm a track.
I am Ernest Toriyama, and after high school, I want to be an operating engineer, and I have taken woodworking and manufacturing classes for all 4 years of high school.
I'm Cameron Foster. After high school, I'm interested in finance as well as sports management. Over the past 4 years, I've been working with Mr. Fernandez and Mr. Buck in woodworking as well as manufacturing, and I'm a dual sport athlete. I do basketball as well as track.
Hello everybody, I'm Christian. After high school, I would like to attend college for computer science, and I've been playing for the high school soccer team for all 4 years, and I've also been with Mr. Fernandez in woodworking for 3 years. Our goal is to sell our product, help the community, gain experience in networking, and also to honor our veterans.
So this is a plan we did so far. First, we came together and we came up with a product that fitted best with everyone, especially people in the army. Then we invited guests to come over, and we wanted their opinions on it. That's when we got when we got advice and how to improve our product. After that, we finalized it and introduced it to the event of the Army.
For our proposal, we created 3 different project prototypes. We created a fallen soldier sign, a laser engraved cutting board, and an American flag. When we were deciding on our final product that we were going to produce, we had to consider things like how long it would take to produce each item, the ability that people who bought it would have to customize their purchase, how much money we would make off of it, and how wide of a market that the product would have.
Our partners include the American Legion, Vietnam Veteran Chapter, East Haven Veterans Council, and the American Legion Auxiliary. The purpose of this was to get feedback on the design and establish a price point and assistance with marketing.
So the first product was the prototype, and as you can see, we didn't have any space for the plaque. After we heard the advice, we decided to make room for the plaque, which made it more customizable, which is better. Then we came up with flyers that had a QR code, and when scanned, it will take you to this online form where you could put your information and order the firm. And we made a flyer too, where you could also make a physical copy.
To advertise our product, we made Facebook posts. We sent out emails to the staff mailing list. We went to the East Haven Veterans Day event, and we will be going to our partners' organization meetings.
Now, the most important part of this project was being able to actually sell the project that we created. Obviously, we posted online, but to be able to be a part of the Veterans Day event and actually be in public as well as be a part of the community was a great experience. We had nothing short of positive feedback, and this is where we sold most of our flyers as well. Thank you, Jack, again for having us here. It was a great experience. Now, for the vision of the graduate, this has helped us become more responsible citizens. We've been giving back to the community as well as honoring those who made sacrifices. We were able to become more effective communicators, talk in stakeholder meetings, as well as work on our public speaking, and become more goal-directed as well as resilient. We were taking a lot of feedback and made any necessary changes, as well as work on our time management, as well as any design challenges.
We've currently raised $210, and our goal is to raise $1,000 to donate to the Veterans Organization. Our next steps are to follow up on our in-person order forms, attend partner meetings to promote our product, and determine which organization we are going to donate all of our proceeds to.
That's it. Adam, if I could. So I've been working with these young men and Mr. Fernandez for a little over a month. It's amazing what they came up with and how hard they've been working and what they did. First of all, I'd like to invite you to Thursday night's football game. Bring a lot of flyers. We can pass them out if they're going to be honoring veterans again. The product is outstanding. They were great as far as taking ideas that we brought to them, the various groups, the veterans groups that met with them, and we're just so proud of these guys, and we're happy that that they wanted to honor veterans and to provide the proceeds to one of our veterans groups in town. So thank you guys once again.
Yeah, would you like to take them around?
Yeah, this is known as the Soldier's Cross with the rifle, the boots, and the helmet. And as I stated, you can get a plaque. For example, I can get one that would say Jack Stacy, United States Marine Corps, and the dates that I was in, and that'll be attached to the
They look
plaque.
fantastic. I will, yeah.
Great Christmas gift if you have a veteran in your family.
And these are linked in our district newsletter, so if anybody is watching and is interested in how they can participate, support the students in their fundraiser, I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. Gentlemen, I would say you are the embodiment of our vision of the graduate attributes, the work that you're doing. Again, working with the community, taking the feedback, continuing to design. And it's a great opportunity to highlight how the coursework here is contributing to a variety of college and career pathways. So tremendous, again, appreciate it.
I have a question. How did you guys come up with the price? Did you look at, well, just, I'll stop there. How did you come up with the price for them?
We just asked for feedback as well as going based off of previous sales from projects in the past.
I just wondered if you use math, took into account the cost of goods and the labor put in or anything like that, if there was any of that kind of work put in behind the scenes.
100%, especially in terms of, the amount of money for goods. I mean, what isn't cheap is definitely expensive, but we also want to make sure that the price was reasonable for the people that we were selling to.
Yeah, we heard, so on the American Legion Auxiliary, we did get a lot of the feedback regarding the price and, that they appreciated that it was, cost effective and that you guys did end up scaling back a little bit. So I know you guys did a little modeling with size-wise, right? Just to make sure it fit in that price range.
It's very reasonably priced. So
Yeah.
it's a bargain.
Yeah.
I will be ordering a couple myself, so. And I would like a flyer too, because I want to hang it up somewhere, so I can get it later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or feedback for our team? All right, we really appreciate you. Could be so many places this Tuesday night. You chose to be here, and the work that went into not only your product, but preparing for tonight's presentation. So thank you. Really appreciate it. Another round of applause for them, I think? Yes.
Adam, can I make one comment?
Please.
Going backwards to my report on
Yep.
athletics. I was reading what Mr. Verderam sent me, and now that I'm looking at it, Lena Onofrio, who's the new pom-pom coach, I know will be successful. She was my student at high school in the community.
Thank you.
I didn't even realize it until
Thank you.
I'm writing it down and realized she was a great girl.
A worthy revisiting of your report,
Yes.
Jack.
Lisa, can you have anything else to possibly say?
No, not tonight.
Okay, so that brings us to our COFO report.
So we did not have a subcommittee meeting, so we will field questions related to the invoices and POs in the packet first, and then we just have a couple items to go over as promised in the last meeting. So we'll start with POs and invoice questions.
I have a question about the hiring of coaches. Is that for right now?
Sure.
So, as everyone knows, we cut freshman coaches last year. And at last year's meeting, I questioned the hockey having 2 assistant coaches. And that assistant coach was still hired, even though he wasn't supposed to be and it wasn't budgeted. And I noticed that it's on here again. So every sport has a varsity coach and an assistant coach. And if they have a freshman team, as basketball does, they have a freshman coach. So I don't understand why hockey has a second assistant when they do not have a freshman team. It's not budgeted. It's not in the budget. So why is that there?
Yeah.
Is it co-op?
So one thing to specific to that is when we look at the amount of time we have access to being on the ice and the high contact nature of ice hockey, reducing beyond 3 does begin to impact from a student safety and supervision standpoint. So it's something that we're continuing to review and assess, but that is a reason why we've maintained 3. I will say, in talking with Athletic Director Verderam, that recruitment efforts are looking really strong. And as we are able to add freshman teams or to expand participation in sports, we are looking to increase the assistant coaching in alignment with that to ensure that same level of safety and supervision in the other sports. So I know that a couple that we're keeping our close eye on would be indoor track, as well as some recruitments in alignment with baseball. So that's where we're looking at, because we don't want students to not be able to access and participate in these areas of belonging.
Other sports have, with only 2 coaches, those coaches cut their stipends in half so they can have a 3rd coach. Because they need 3 coaches too. All the sports do. It's very difficult to coach with two coaches. I don't care what sport you have. So I know you're talking about a safety issue, but I think that's a safety issue in every sport. I don't think there's a sport out there that doesn't have more than 2 coaches. They all have 3 coaches, but they take less money to coach. So I see that as an equity issue too, that I really feel that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. We will continue to look at in terms of the size of the program and, again, the nature of the sport itself. when you have that many students that need to access the ice at the same time, that's really where that's coming into play. It's a difficult decision, but it's one that we'll continue to evaluate.
Now, aren't these they're co-ops, aren't they? The
Hockey is.
Hockey's co-op.
So why are we just, every player is from East Haven, right?
No, they're from different towns.
Is every town providing the same amount of coaches?
Do they provide coaches for
I
us?
asked Anthony about that. I believe there's a stipend that the town pays for that child's play in East Haven.
Like a reimbursement almost.
The
Correct?
coaches
Like,
are all
it's
East
essentially
Haven
like a
coaches.
reimbursement.
We can look more at that reimbursement process, though, and how that feeds into these numbers. But I did want to speak to the safety and supervision standpoint when we look at the staffing levels.
We also have volunteer coaches.
Correct.
That receive no money.
All right, I'm going to let it I could probably argue this for the next half hour, but I'm going to let it.
No, there's a discrepancy to me as well with like middle school coaches versus like high school coaches, and the middle school coaches don't have assistant coaches. They're putting in more work, yet they make half of what the high school coaches make who have assistant coaches. And I mean, in the middle school, there's volunteers. I don't know, I just think it's something to think about, and not that we have tons of extra money to throw around or anything, but it just seems like, and that's when the kids are younger and maybe need a little more supervision as well. But I am thankful for all the people who do volunteer to help in the middle school and in high school.
Yeah.
But I am correct in that this is not in the budget, correct?
The three
This
coaches are in the
position is
budget.
not in the budget.
Yes, it is.
Was not, correct?
No, it is. There was 4 prior, there's down to 3 now.
But to Lynn's point, I do express my gratitude to everyone that makes our programming happen when we're looking at those budgeting decisions. Difficult choices, but I think it's something that we continue to be able to look at because, as we've heard, athletics is one avenue for students to experience a sense of belonging that unites them with their with the academics within schools, and so it is part of that holistic student experience that we know is really critical, along with other extracurriculars.
I think our numbers are up as well, right? There are a lot more students playing sports.
Fall participation was at an all-time high. We don't yet have the winter sports numbers, but it is an exciting thing to see that it's important to the students.
Do you guys know why we don't have a freshman girls basketball court? Just the numbers are too low?
I think this year the numbers are going to be different. This year they're actually, might be, I mean, you could speak to it.
That is another program that we're monitoring really closely. It has been a numbers game in the past, is my understanding, but that there has been quite a bit of recruitment and interest. And so again, that's something that our athletic director is monitoring really closely.
Yeah, I spoke with Coach Archibald the other day, and he was saying how many more students are trying out this year for basketball, and that there might be a freshman team
So
this
if
year.
there's a freshman
But-
team, who is going to coach it?
Well,
Is that
they'll have
default
to-
to Mike as well?
No, that'll be no, you'll get another stipend position that comes back.
Okay.
But it's not going to be filled until the need is there.
Okay.
Those kind of go both ways. Like, I know volleyball last year, 2 years ago, there was a freshman volleyball team.
Mhm.
There wasn't enough numbers last year, so that role was not included. But in a year like this, if the freshman numbers are large enough, there will be a freshman girls basketball team added.
Yeah.
So one more thing about hockey, Mayor, just having been through this for the past several years, I don't know of a high school team that doesn't have 3 to 4 coaches in hockey.
But you can say that for all sports.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, they always have 3 coaches.
Who?
Every sport.
Okay, but you're questioning the hockey, and I'm just saying, I don't know of a high school team that doesn't have 3 to 4 coaches. That's all.
But I think to that point, it makes sense to look at our reimbursement to make sure that if
Mm-hmm.
we're dealing with the stipends, that it's equitable for how many students are coming from other districts, that
It's being paid for.
We could always make this an agenda item and invite the athletic director so they could actually provide us with the information instead of keep asking questions. I'm just thinking that might help us. We could do that for the next meeting. Good? Okay.
Great agenda item.
Excellent. Any other questions on invoices?
Yeah, I have two. They're rather mundane, but I just was curious. So on pages 13 and 14, there's a number of gift cards and gift baskets. Can you explain that to me, what that was all about?
Adam, do you?
I appreciate that. I flagged it as well, and I do not have the answer yet. I know that it's marked to the executive admin, and I am not sure if that was one that came out of my office or OCI, so we'll follow up with that answer. My hunch is it's around incentives tied to programming, but we'll make sure to check on that.
Thank you. And then the other one is just, again, my curiosity. RJ, when you say an open PO, what are we talking about? There's several of them.
So an open PO, July 1st, we will create a bunch of requisitions open for the entire year. One being, for example, special ed tuition, we will open a PO to one of our vendors for $1 million because that's what we expect our bill to be for the year. And as an invoice comes in, we pay off of that PO. So it'll reduce the amount of open PO available, and it goes to paid. So we try to set up open POs for most of what we can because it helps our budget process during the year. And as bills come in, we will reduce that open PO, and it'll be marked as paid.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mayor, do you have any other questions for invoices or POs? No? Anyone else? POs or invoice questions? No? I can move on? Yes? Michelle?
She's got my paper, so.
No. It was the same,
Same one?
same question.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess.
So if there's,
No, those are things Adam said he has to look at because he's not sure.
Yeah, I flagged those to you. I think I know what they are, but I just wanted double check, and folks were out of the office before I had a chance to vet that before tonight.
I mean, you know what might be great if you could just follow up with an email tomorrow?
I will. Yeah, I'll send it out to the group.
so two more items I just wanted to touch upon, one being our, at the last meeting, we discussed that at this meeting, we would go through a process that the team is going through on a regular basis related to vacancies and human resources. So to shed some light, there is an excessive amount of vacancies going on throughout the year at certain points of time. And I just wanted to shed some light on what our internal process is in evaluating those vacancies and what the impact it has on our financial impact, because many would believe that a vacancy just creates a budget savings, when in fact it's almost costs us more money when there's a vacancy, because the cost of filling it and replacing that cost has a price tag as well. So just the overall process, we keep a running total of our staff, both incoming and outgoing. Once our budget is finalized and input as of July 1, it's kind of set in stone. So if any staff leaves after it is approved, the incoming staff and the change in salary from an outgoing versus ingoing has an impact on our budget that we need to absorb somehow, some way. So if somebody leaves at step 4, but the replacement comes in at step 7, there's an on-cost to us of X amount of dollars. Same thing goes for the flip side. If a top step teacher retires or leaves after that July 1 date and we hire somebody at step 1 for us, there's a savings that we absorb. So we keep a running total of the outgoing versus incoming by position, so we can see what that on-cost or savings is by role. We keep a year-to-date total, so we can kind of keep a gauge of where we are financially after all those moves of incoming and outgoing staff. Year-to-date, just so you know, as of 2 weeks ago, we were within $15,000 of all our moves. We had an on-cost of $15,000 of all our outgoing versus incoming staff, and the effect of that on the budget was only $15,000. So I think from all the movement, it seems like it's a lot when you see the new hire list coming and going, so far, that is the financial impact for those moves. The second phase that we take a peek at is vacancy savings. We take all our posted jobs and the position in the budget, we take that piece and break it down to a daily total. And we keep track of how many days each position is vacant. And we calculate every time we do this analysis, which is biweekly, we will put the number of days into that vacant position to calculate as of today, we are saving X amount of dollars for this position. We come to a total of what those positions come to, and that we factor in with on top of as a second layer to the incoming and outgoing total, right? So it's like another addition that we come in with doing this analysis. The third piece is a coverage piece. If we aren't able to hire a position at a certain school, we are offering 6-period coverage to staff to cover that role. That is paying staff upwards of 20% of their contractual salary for a year. We break that down in a daily rate. So if we hire somebody on a Thursday and they start on a Tuesday, we can calculate that to the day of how much we provide that teacher for coverage. That all is an on-cost to us in addition to those other 2 layers. So a vacancy has the vacancy savings, but there's also the movement savings and a cost to provide the service to our students, which we are obligated to do. And then there's the last piece, which is our outsourcing. Some of our special education roles, if we cannot fill, we must go out to a third party and try to get a service to replace to provide the services needed for our students to meet the needs. Those come at a very high cost. So the savings that we're seeing from having the position vacant is a lot higher than the 6-period coverage and the inflow and outflow, but that savings is pretty equal to what we are outsourcing to fill those roles until we fill the position ourselves. So what we try to do is take all 4 of those pieces and make sure we're balancing that to a position where we are comfortable within our limits to not have to add too much cost to our budget and utilize those savings to still provide the services to our students while we are still recruiting and trying to hire within. Does that make sense? That was a lot.
So all of that is 15,000?
No, that one piece was 15,000.
Oh, okay.
Year to date, year to date, we are, and it kind of changes as time progresses. Up in the beginning of the year, the outsourcing number is very small because it doesn't start getting too large of a realization of that salary until we get further in the year. But year to date, we were around the 50,000 to the plus. So after all those movements with all the vacancies, the 6-period coverage and the outsourcing, we were around the $50,000 mark. As we progress in the year and we see more of the outsourcing being actually happening and not hiring within, it kind of tips the other way. So we are trying to buffer our savings, knowing that the on-cost is going to be higher in the end of the year. So projecting where we will be, I feel we're in a good place where we can absorb most of these costs without having a negative impact on the overall game.
But the issue is that we can't find people for those positions. Isn't that correct, Bob?
That is.
It's difficult to find people
We're having a hard
to fill
time
those
even,
positions.
we're even having a hard time finding outsourced help for certain roles as well.
So it's interesting. It's a number of factors, and I'll mention one other thing at the end too as well that does result in savings, just to try and stay positive. For example, there's 31 open school psychologist positions right now in the state of Connecticut. We happen to be one of those 31, but it's very difficult to fill these positions. I teach at one of those universities. There was only 8 people in that class that graduated, and they filled positions all over the state and possibly all over the country. Most of these areas are shortage area positions. There is one kind of, there is one benefit or some benefits to contracting. And that has to do with like health insurance coverage, employee benefits, and I typically write this down, payroll taxes, Social Security contributions, and then some of the flexibility permits us relative to recruitment, hiring, onboarding, retention. There is some flexibility, so there are some savings on the back end, but it's you know, it's a challenge. It's a challenge in this climate right now to get really good people to where we want them in this district, especially with an increasing special education population.
We are getting that.
It's going to be over, I mean, I could say district-wide, it's over 20% right now, but I would say, I just spoke to Ms. Church about this in her particular school, and I think her numbers were quite large for this year. Not because we're identifying a significant number of students, but because a significant number of students are moving into our district with complex disabilities. Wonderful kids, great families, complex disabilities.
I will commend Pupil Services as well as our building leaders for continuing to be very active in the recruitment and onboarding process. It is something that we are continuing to staff as we go, and so just while we may contract, we continue to look for what our long-term solutions will be within district.
And are we giving exit interviews to people who are leaving us like mid-year, or, you know, because sometimes that list can be rather, but you've got, you know, two positions here, you know.
That has been part of our process, is to seek out those opportunities to better understand. We also are also looking at the flip side as well. So we're working with a doc student that wants to use East Haven to explore why do people choose to stay as well, to think about how we amplify those efforts, especially in some of these specialized programmings are hard to find because we do see both. And so I think it's really important that we continue to balance that, amplify what's working for folks while we seek to mitigate the barriers that do possibly lead them elsewhere.
Adam's absolutely right. When we fill these shortage area positions, folks come here for the culture of working here. Like, they'll say that, I left somewhere to come to work here because of the leadership culture and the support in our buildings.
Any other invoice questions?
No.
For that, RJ, that's.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because I know when vacancies are getting larger, the misconception can be there, and I just want you all to know that we are monitoring it daily.
And you'll continue to keep us.
For sure.
Every few months or so.
For sure. And then I just wanted to go over if there was any questions on the transfer for later. We can discuss that now or later, whatever avenue you'd like.
Let's do it later,
Okay, that works.
since it's an agenda item.
Sure. So with that, I'm good for now, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Or Michelle, sorry, thank you.
All right. Accepting of meeting minutes from October 28th, 2025, regular board meeting. Do we have any revisions or objections? Then we will accept the minutes. That brings us to our audience of citizens portion for this evening. Do we have anyone with us that would like to speak? Okay, moving on to new business. 7.1, discussion and possible action to approve the 2024-2025 budget transfer. See, we're here
Here it
already.
is, quicker than I thought. So in your packet tonight, you will see our final budget transfer to close out the 24-25 year in the totality of $523,819.86. This is to close out the approved budget. It does not include any overages that we realized throughout the year. This is just to move money for the audit to make sure we are properly going through the process of approving where money should have been in relation to the budget. The larger items, so you can, where we're putting money to, again, was salaries, potentially because of the on-cost of what I just explained in that process for last year. And largely, the purchase property services was in relation to the extra work related to the HVAC system at the high school for repairs and maintenance to get us through the end of the year. So that is the bulk of that $150,000. The budget freeze we enacted last October had a great impact on this, where we only had to move this small amount of money. This is probably the smallest transfer we've made in the past couple of years. But again, it's just to close out the approved budget, not including any overages above and beyond of this that we've been discussing.
have any questions? No? Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 budget transfer.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, okay. Roll call vote?
Ms. De Palma?
Yes.
Ms. DeLongo?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Putney?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Stacy?
Yes.
Ms. Torello?
Yes.
Dr. DeLucia?
Yes.
All right, 8 in favor, motion passes.
So that brings us to our agenda item on the approval of the board meeting calendar. Has everyone had a chance to review?
I just had a question about April. So I saw that we're actually meeting the 1st and 3rd instead of the 2nd and 4th. I'm guessing that's because of spring break.
Correct.
The only conflict there looks like it will be with town council, that first meeting, just as a reference point.
And you know what? It'll also probably be a budget night, since it, and we're kind of aware of certain dates, but we have to put the two meetings.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah. and we
I just
can
wanted to
always
make
move.
sure that, like, everyone was on target with understanding that was because of the spring break for the
Yeah.
district.
We most likely probably will not be meeting on the 7th, but
Right.
we'll probably be sitting, waiting for our turn at council. Right? Because that's around the right date.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure is. Or no,
It's close.
don't mean to be negative, but it usually happens during break time too. so.
I think public hearing is normally during break, like our initial presentations in the first couple of
Yeah.
weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been trying to get us before break, so hopefully it remains the same.
So hopefully we'll be there on April 7th.
You mean we'll get to go first on one night?
Doubt it.
All right, any other dates? Any other questions?
Yeah, only one in June, is that due to graduation?
Then all the end of year events.
Okay, and then, where else? November and December, only one that's due to holidays.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This doesn't really, I'm sorry, were you going to say something, Tia? This isn't really about the calendar, well, maybe in a roundabout way, but seeing the superintendent's end-of-year presentation, I'm just thinking maybe we should schedule like a workshop for a chat in January or something. It just, with Adam, just to see where he is.
Oh, the mid,
Feedback.
yeah. I'm
Feedback.
hoping you could develop that because someone needs to put together the eval, and you seem to kind of like really be excited about it.
I don't know about excited, but I just want to make
Motivated.
sure, there's feedback provided.
Yeah,
Like we-
yeah, if somebody, board needs to develop it, we'll need board members to do that. I unfortunately cannot.
I would
So-
also say that January is a heavy budget month.
Okay.
I believe we'll be making our initial budget presentation. It's normally that first January meeting with a potential workshop in between the two, and the third is to approve the board's budget so we can get it over to the town per the charter date of February 1st.
If
So
I-
it may not be,
Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
I just don't know if it would be a great month to jam another workshop in a rather busy month, but
If it's not too late, something I might propose is taking a look at that first meeting in February, because we'll have our MOI data back as well, and so it can kind of be in conjunction with monitoring towards the goals, but that might be feeling like it's pushing too far out for the board, but I just offer that up as a consideration.
I think that's a good
I think
time.
that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine.
And it gives Lynn time to develop the format.
That's right, Lynn.
I just am not really, I'm just more concerned for you. Like, I want you
appreciate
to
that.
feel supported.
Thank you.
So
I really do appreciate that.
No.
We don't have one, Michelle?
A mid-year?
Yeah.
No.
but we do, but
I think it was
your
more
mid-year
presentation.
should just
guide.
be where you're at in the.
First,
for the
all,
end.
everything needs to be, per contract, discussed with Adam on how it's developed. So it's a new superintendent, it's in the contract that it has to be developed in conjunction.
I can work on that.
Huh?
I'll work on that.
Perfect, perfect. You and Lynn? Yeah, power team. Okay.
So can I make a motion?
Yeah.
Let's approve the schedule for the Board of Ed meetings for 2026, 2027.
Second?
Any other questions, comments? No? Roll call vote.
Ms. DePalma?
Yes.
Ms. DeLongo?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Putney?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Stacy?
Yes.
Ms. Torello?
Yes.
Dr. DeLucia?
Yes.
8 in favor, motion passes.
Excellent. All right. So I believe that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. If anyone would like to add something to the next agenda, which I believe is December
Ninth.
9th?
Nine, yes.
9?
Nine, yes, nine.
December
N-I-N-E,
9th?
yes,
9?
nine.
Okay, December 9th. You may email that if you'd like. Okay, that's all I got.